Hi, we've got the Harley-Davidson Nightster Special here. I've had it for just over a week now. I've done a couple of 100 miles on this. It looks really great. It's got a lovely low seat height, wide bars, a good stance. It gets a lot of attention wherever you're parked up. And strangely, a lot of the time it's from people who don't ride motorbikes. They just come along and want to talk about it and ask about it. And that's quite an unusual thing. It's really powerful to ride and it's very torquey. It makes you feel empowered, I suppose. It's well balanced. So some of the things that I really like about this are the wheels. They're pretty cool. They got these kind of cut out jabby style and I like that. I like the chrome bits on here. They're just a nice touch. So I like the logo that's on the tank here. It's a little bit different from some of the styling they do on their bikes. I like that. I like that it's just got that little touch of colour, but the rest of it's matte black. And I do like a black bike. I like the V-twin engine. I'm a fan of V-twins. And they've accented it nicely with a slightly different colour with a sort of gunmetal grey there. Coming back, we've got the exhaust 2-into-1 pipe. It's quite big and blocky, and initially I thought it looked a bit clunky, but I've come to quite like that. But you can just see a little bit of the frame here, and it's just nice that they've left that to show there. So the bike overall is a little bit understated, but I like that about it, and it's not trying too hard to be really showy, but it still gets a lot of attention and it's got really good presence. So having a look at the engine, we've got a V-twin, 975cc. It's water-cooled, which is unusual for the Harley-Davidson. I think I quite like that, especially if you're sitting in traffic or things like that. Sometimes the air-cooled ones can get pretty hot. The exhaust sounds really good. It's not too loud when you're riding, but when you give it some revs or when you're behind it, it does sound really good still. So I think that's the best of both worlds. So just having a look at the other side of the engine, there's a lot going on here. You've got your fan and all the wiring connectors, lots of covers. So typically with Harley, it's a belt drive, which makes it nice and smooth to ride. It doesn't need a lot of adjustment like you have with a chain, so that's really good from a sort of maintenance point of view. I like the distance that the indicators are set at. They're nice and clear. The seat height I found really good for me. With short legs, this is quite good. So that's 71.5 centimetres high. It's reasonably wide, but it's not too wide that you lose the leg length. So under the seat, it's just got a little key lock on here on your keys. We've got the fuel filler cap here. It actually works quite well under there. I was a bit unsure of that at first, but it's pretty cool because you have to get off anyway to fill up, so we might as well put it there. We've got 3 different connectors here for presumably whatever you want to charge. Your optimizer, and I guess you can put your heated clothing on these, whatever else has that connector. So that's quite useful. I guess you just tuck them out. You've got a spanner and a little pouch that you can put your own tools or whatever in. Going forward, and we have a look at the controls here. Got nice wide bars. It gives a very positive stance and a nice balance to it. There's a lot going on. We've got lots of buttons. It's keyless, so we just have the power switch here, and then you've got a good display. You can connect your phone to it, your earphones, and then your sat nav. So you download an app onto your phone, and then you can set different routes, and the sat nav just comes up here with all the information you might want. So I think it's something that it would take a little while just to familiarise yourself with everything it can do. But I think once you had, it would be really good and very satisfying when you're riding, especially if it's sort of a longer distance and things. Obviously you've got controls for your music or sat nav things, calls. You've got the cruise control. and your menu buttons and things here. The indicator is under here. Unlike some of the other Harleys that have a left and a right, one on each side, this is more of a traditional one for us, and it's self-cancelling, which has caught me out a few times because I go to cancel it and then put it back on again. But I got used to that. With the levers, they're both adjustable. Again, I really like that because I've got small hands. I can use them quite comfortably. They're nice and light. So when I first got on it, I thought that it was a little bit of a peculiar riding position. The overall stance with your arms is very wide, which is good for balance and control. With the wide bars, it does give you really good control, especially slow moving and things. So with your arms wide, your feet are actually relatively close in. Sometimes when you've got the wide bars, you've got wide feet with it, but they're kind of tucked in. The seat is fairly far back, which is partly because I'm got short arms, I guess. I'm then leaning quite far forward, so it's unusual, I think, for me. Probably if you've got longer arms, it would be a slightly different seating position. So when you're riding, it actually feels quite powerful because you've got this sort of wide stance going on. The brakes are not too sharp. They're smooth to apply, and I like that. The number plate isn't set in the most delightfully aesthetic way, I don't think. You can probably put a tidy or something on there, I think. Coming forward, the pillion seat, I did sit on it briefly, not actually going anywhere, just for test. It wasn't that comfortable. It would do for a short distance, but I wouldn't want to do a long ride on that. The bars, I really like them being wide because they're useful and easy like that, but I did find that they are quite wide for filtering. So because I was in the town a lot, there was times when I was trying to get through, especially with bar and mirrors that make them even wider. Yeah, because it's a fairly narrow bike, so you could fit through gaps, apart from these, which are the same height as everyone else's wing mirrors. On the wing mirrors, I found when I was accelerating hard, they fold down, so they just end up like this. So I was kind of like accelerate, and I was riding with a friend, and I got part way up this hill, and I kind of thought, oh, I better put those back. So with riding it, it's really smooth with the belt drive and the low centre of gravity, slow control in traffic. It's very easy, especially with the wide bars, the adjustable levers. It's very good to manage like that. So having just mentioned that I'm fairly short for this bike and my arms were having a bit of a long reach, there's a few other things that I found that sort of tied in with basically my height. I'm 5'4.5". So with having short legs, when I was finding that when I was in traffic, when I was having to stop and start a lot, put my feet down, change gear, my legs were getting quite hot on the exhaust and the engine on the other side as well, actually. So that was not ideal. I think if you've got longer legs, you could put them a bit further out. So that's a me-related problem. So when I'm riding and I'm saying I've got my arms further forward and my bum's a bit further back, my neck is leaning back a little bit. And that combined with quite stiff suspension, I was finding that I was really feeling every lump and bump in the road. I think also if you were heavier, probably the suspension would be better set for you. There is some preload adjustment on it. I haven't actually adjusted that, so it's probably something that can be worked on. But it was just, again, the size of me, I guess they're not designing this bike for me. And this gear shift is a long way away. I was having to change with my toe or take my whole foot off and change like this, which was making my toe ache. But presumably you can get a shorter lever there. So in summary, I've really enjoyed this bike. It's great fun. I've had excellent time with it. And I think the downside is it's designed for someone who is bigger than I am. There's bound to be adjustments you can make, handlebars, shifts, the seat. I think if you're naturally the right size for it, it would be excellent. It'd be even better. It's a really good bike for sort of days out, maybe commuting a little bit if you don't have too much luggage with you. It's a head turner and it's good fun.